Hello everybody, my name is Timbrooks. I'm running for District 6, Oregon representative for Washington, D.C. I want to be Oregon's District 6 representative in Washington, D.C. Got a bunch of plans for Oregon, mostly jobs, lots and lots and lots of jobs. This is something that as a manufacturing engineer, I am very familiar with the manufacturing process. I know a lot of things about the manufacturing industry that can really help Oregon to stimulate the job growth. Now, as a Republican, that's where I'm going to be concentrating on is fiscal responsibility, fiscal independence from the government welfare. Now, we have a Democrat in there right now, Andre Salinas, and she's a very good politician. She's taking care of us and everything. But her emphasis seems to be on, like I said, getting government welfare, which I would really prefer to get away from government welfare. I would really much prefer getting jobs here. And that's where, God, I don't want to say that she's doing a bad job or incompetent or anything. She's a perfectly competent professional person. It's just my experience would be more towards getting more jobs to Oregon. So if you're a voter and you prefer jobs over government welfare, then vote for me. If you prefer government welfare systems, and I apologize if I make that sound bad, go ahead and vote for her. But do vote. That's the important thing. The most important thing in our constitutional republic, vote. Okay, you need to be represented. So, anyways, I have got some slides for us now. Yesterday, Wednesday, I met with the Yamhill Valley Republican Party. We meet at the American Legion Hall over there, second Wednesday of every month. If you want to come over, be one of the Yamhill Valley Republicans, just go over to the American Legion Hall, second Wednesday of the month, 6 p.m. That's when we generally start the meeting. Get politically active, figure out what's happening in Yamhill Valley. It's going to be good for you, for me, for democracy, for the republic, for everybody. Okay, but yeah, get involved. That's the key. The key point is to get involved. So, anyways, what we were talking about, one of the main things we were talking about yesterday was how our sheriff, Sam Elliott, not the actor, but the sheriff, good guy. He is a what's called a constitutional sheriff. Okay. Now, the idea of constitutional sheriff was started a while back by somebody in Arizona, a sheriff in Arizona, and the whole idea behind that is because the sheriff's an elected official, the sheriff needs to be held to a higher standard than appointed officials or just regular law enforcement, where it's their job. This is an elected official, and so the whole constitutional sheriff idea, it's not really a matter of state policy. It's more a matter of philosophy. If you are a law enforcement person, you're a sheriff, you consider yourself to be a constitutional sheriff, then this is the way you're going to act. And some of the things he was talking about was how, because of Oregon's sanctuary city policies, sometimes his hands are tied when it comes to helping ICE to do what they need to do. And right now, of course, you have Donald Trump and his whole set things right policy, where the Biden administration allowed a whole bunch of illegal people into America with the best of intentions. I know he had the best of intentions. He figured, let's get these people into America. If they want to be in America, they want a better life, let's get them a better life. But what happened was a whole bunch of criminals came in. Venezuela apparently just cleared out their prisons and said, well, just go to America. We don't even want you in the prisons anymore. So we got a lot of gangsters, we got a lot of thugs, we got a lot of really, really bad people that came to America looking for citizenship. And as far as the Biden administration was concerned, yeah, just, you know, the more the merrier, bring them on board, open the doors, open the floodgates, just let them on in. Well, we got to fix that now. So one of the problems that ICE is coming up against is the sanctuary city policies. And I did some investigation into the whole sanctuary city thing, and I found that this is a case of good intentions causing bad things to happen. Okay, we're talking about unintended consequences. So the people of these sanctuary cities, the sanctuary states, they want these migrants, these people that come to America from other countries, they want these people to feel comfortable and at home. They want these people to feel like if they are harmed in any way, that they are perfectly free to go and talk to the police, to talk to the sheriff's department, to talk to whatever law enforcement officials are necessary to have their needs taken care of. And this is kind of an important step, because what happened before, what happened without the sanctuary city policies is this. Let's say you're an illegal alien and you come to America and you get a job. Your employer can treat you any way they want. You're basically slave labor. They could pay you, they could not pay you, they could assault you, they could do anything. They could steal your car, sell it, and what are you going to do about it? You're an illegal alien. If you go to the police to report a crime that happened against you, well, the police are going to say, oh, well, you're an illegal alien. We'll go ahead and just deport you, put you in whatever country you came from. So for a very long time, the illegal alien population of the United States, they would not go to the police. And then these sanctuary city policies came out, sanctuary states, made it a lot easier for public servants to serve the public. Because, these illegal aliens, they are here in America, they're getting an income, and their income is taxed, and they're actually contributing to our economy in a way. And so they are humans, okay? And they're people. They deserve the same kind of rights as any other person in the United States. We're a nation, I know people say we're a nation of laws all the time, and I disagree with that. We aren't a nation of laws. The Constitution of the United States does not say we, the laws of the United States. It says we, the people of the United States. Okay, so we are a nation of people, human beings. We have laws so that we can be working together towards the same goal. But we are first and foremost a nation of people. Okay, and so if you are a person in the United States, we will do everything possible within the system to try to help you out. But sometimes people who help other people out are taken advantage of, and that it doesn't take very many people. If you help out 100 people, and one of those people screws you over, you're going to remember the one person that screwed you over, and you're going to react to everybody that you meet as if that person is potentially just like the one person that screwed you over. Okay, so most people in the world are decent human beings. Most of the people who come to America, they just want a better life. Right? But there are bad elements, and these bad elements make it look bad, make the population look bad that's coming to America. Okay, so I kind of want to go over that and talk about the system here. Now, got my little slides up. Sanctuary policies in the United States were created with noble intentions, like I just said. We want to treat all humans equal. We are a nation of people, designed to protect undocumented immigrants from deportation solely based on their immigration status. These laws seek to foster trust between immigrant communities and local law enforcement. And you've heard these people, these representatives and senators saying, they'll say it is not illegal to come to America as an illegal immigrant, which sounds profoundly stupid because you're saying you're an illegal immigrant and you're coming to America illegally. Well, that's not a crime. It is a crime. Okay? It is a crime to come to America illegally. It's just not a horrible thing. It's not like you murdered somebody or kidnapped or robbed a bank or sold, I don't know, some terrible stuff. You're here illegally with the best of intentions. Okay, that's what they're trying to say. Is you're here illegally, yes, but your intentions are good. And sometimes it's not about the intentions, it's about the result. In fact, it's always about the result, not so much the intentions. Okay, so anyways, what we're saying there is just because you're in America illegally, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not the kind of person that we want in America. You might be the kind of person we want in America, you just happen to be here illegally. Okay, that's what they're saying there, if I could paraphrase for them, or if I can put it into different words for them. The premise is straightforward. When individuals fear deportation, they are less likely to report crimes, cooperate with police, or seek help when they are victims. By limiting cooperation with federal immigration authorities like the U.S. Immigration and Control Service, ICE, sanctuary jurisdictions aim to encourage public safety through community engagement. And that's really what the government's about. I mean, it's the purpose of government to accomplish collectively what can't be accomplished by the individual. So it's the purpose of the government to act in a collective way to do what's best for the entire population, even the illegal population, okay? People in America, illegal people get treated better in America than anywhere else in the world. And you know, that's not a bad thing. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm glad to be in a country where illegal aliens are actually treated better in America than they're treated in their home countries. You know, so I like that about America. That's something I do like about Democrats. I appreciate about Democrats is the fact that they're going to watch out for people. They're always going to have the best of intentions. Okay, so that's something good about Democrats. Like I said, I'm a Republican, but I don't hate Democrats. I look forward to, if I get to go to U.S. Congress and be a representative of the state of Oregon, I look forward to working with Democrats and Republicans. I think we got to work together in order to make America work. You thought I was going to say make America great again, didn't you? Yeah. See, but that's the whole thing. I want to make America work. So Democrats, Republicans, we have to work together. We can't go in there thinking we're going to kill each other or anything. We just, it's got to be a cooperative, collective effort. So anyways, beneath these intentions lies a complex and troubling reality. In practice, the very mechanisms that offer refuge to the vulnerable may also create safe harbor for exploiters. And this is where we're getting to what I was talking about, where people with good intentions are very often taken advantage of. And you're always going to remember that one person that screwed you over, not the 99 that did you a favor. Okay, so that's just the way humans are. We're like that. We do that. Okay, and this is a big one. Child sexual traffickers, drug cartels, human smugglers, forced labor profiteers, and even terrorist operatives may find sanctuary jurisdictions attractive, not because of compassion, but because of insulation from federal scrutiny. And this is where we're talking about the federal government has a different function than the state government. The state government is taking care of the people in the state. The federal government has to take care of everything that happens in between states, the big picture. Now, in order for the federal government to work, all the states have to cooperate. Well, if a state decides that their cooperation might put an innocent person in harm's way, then really the state is obliged to protect people at their level. So that's what their thing's all about. But anyway, so in some cases, these sanctuary laws may unintentionally obstruct the very investigations that could uncover and prevent egregious crimes. Sanctuary jurisdictions, sometimes referred to as safe cities or non-cooperative states, are governed by a patchwork of local and state level policies that restrict cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. These policies vary by region, but they typically include the following provisions, and that is prohibiting local law enforcement from honoring ICE detainer requests unless accompanied by a judicial warrant. And this is something that the sheriff was talking about last night. It is the sheriff's job. The sheriff is an elected official. It is his job, his or her, whichever the sheriff may be. It's the sheriff's job to enforce the law, to take care of the people. The state of Oregon prevents the sheriff from cooperating with ICE. And that's due to the sanctuary city policies. So the state of Oregon is putting the sanctuary city policies above public safety. And this is a very difficult situation for the sheriff to be in because the sheriff wants to assure public safety. One of the things that the sheriff can do to ensure public safety is cooperating with ICE to get these dangerous criminals out of America and back to their home country. But the sheriff can't do that due to the sanctuary city policies. Okay, because if the sheriff were to cooperate and go against sanctuary city policies, that sheriff would lose any kind of law enforcement certification that the sheriff has. So basically, by cooperating with ICE, which would be a great, wonderful thing for the safety of Oregon, what's going to happen is the sheriff will lose his job. So we don't want that to happen, okay? Something that said, no man can serve two masters. You cannot serve truth and safety. So if we're going to serve truth, sometimes we're going to be unsafe. If we're going to serve safety, we can't always be honest. So that's the problem that the sheriff comes up against. The sheriff wants to do the job of protecting the citizens of Yamhill County, but state policy sometimes prevents that from happening. Okay, so in the case, well, let's get back to this right here. Banning state and local agencies from sharing information, restricting access to public facilities, discouraging collaboration on joint task force. And this is all what the sheriff should be doing, but can't do. The sheriff cannot do any of these things. And this is what's really frustrating to the sheriff's department, is the fact that the sheriff wants to do these things and should be doing these things, but state policy says he can't do these things. So we really, what I'm going to get to eventually is that the sanctuary state policies need to be reevaluated. They need to be ended. We can have some sanctuary policies, but it looks like these sanctuary policies are working against the common welfare, working against justice, working against the people of the state of Oregon. So these are things that really need to be considered as maybe get rid of them. For example, 2021 Sanctuary Promise Act expanded the state's already long-standing sanctuary laws by explicitly prohibiting public bodies, including sheriffs, police departments, and even school staff, from using public resources to assist federal immigration enforcement. The law also created new accountability mechanisms to penalize local cooperation with ICE unless it is backed by a judicial warrant. And what this means is we can't do anything about it. Our law enforcement cannot enforce these laws unless the federal government comes in with a judicial warrant and says, yes, you have to do this stuff. See, because the federal government supersedes the state government. ICE, the FBI, federal marshal, or whoever can go into any state and enforce the law. The problem is getting cooperation with the law enforcement people in that state. If the law enforcement people within the state are told they cannot cooperate with federal authorities, then the federal authorities cannot get the evidence that they need to do what they need to do, which is protect the citizens of America. So this is compounding the frustration that law enforcement people in the state of Oregon have. The application of sanctuary laws has moved beyond shielding victims from deportation. In some cases, it shields entire networks of abuse and criminality from detection, especially when undocumented individuals are involved in crimes that local authorities are discouraged or outright prohibited from reporting to federal partners. Okay? And this goes on with what was said before. They really aren't allowed to tell the federal authorities. I mean, here you have an illegal alien that is doing something that breaking the law in America, and the only people that can deport them are ICE, and the law enforcement in Oregon can't tell ICE, hey, if you deport these people, fixes all of our problems, okay? That we know that these people they're gonna keep committing the same crimes over and over again. And all we can really do is keep arresting them, and then they'll be let back out on the street. So yeah, more about that later. Unaccompanied minors arriving at the U.S. border are among the most at-risk populations for abuse and exploitations. These children, many fleeing from violence or poverty, are often handed over to adult sponsors in the United States. While the majority of sponsors are family members, the vetting process has come under intense scrutiny. And there's a part in here, yeah, right here. In 2023, federal oversight agencies and independent watchdogs raised alarms about the Department of Health and Human Services losing contact with over 85,000 unaccompanied migrant children. Unaccompanied migrant children, 85,000. And it's something that's reminded of one of our great communists, one of those great communist leaders. It wasn't Marx, Stalin. Stalin never actually said this, but he was credited with saying it. He said, well, he was credited with saying, if one person dies, it's a tragedy. If 1 million people die, it's a statistic. Okay? This number, 85,000, is so big, it's more like a statistic than an actual number. I mean, let's look at this. In Texas, a few children have died from the measles. And America thinks this is a huge catastrophe, which it is. Children shouldn't be dying from the measles. 85,000 children come up missing. I mean, that's such a huge number that it's difficult to understand. So the part of our brain that can contemplate large numbers just stores that, 85,000, okay. But when it comes to like 2 or 3 children dying from the measles, the part of our brain that's able to understand small numbers feels very emotional, and hey, that's a terrible catastrophe. Shouldn't happen. But 85,000. Okay, let's bring that 85,000 over to the emotional side. Think about all these horrible things happening to one child, and it happens 85,000 times. That's more than a statistic. That's a human tragedy. I mean, we're talking about thousands of people in the Gaza Strip dying because of this crazy little war between Gaza and Israel, and we're calling it a genocide. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Look at the numbers. 85,000 children go missing in America. These are unattended children that come across the border into America. Do we even know about this? Has the news even covered this number? Yeah, I mean that's a pretty significant amount. So I have not heard about it. You would think that the news would be covering this day by day by day, but nothing. So, this is it's a pretty big figure. Okay, so 85,000 of these children are missing. So here's what. One of the reasons I got on this, I love literature. I love books. I love reading. I love movies that are done well, or audio books. One of the books that I read recently is this novella. It's only a little bit over, I think it's 109 pages. You Were Never Really Here. The protagonist uncovers a secretive operation where underage girls are exploited in a setting euphemistically referred to as a playground. So what happens in the book, and here it is, You Were Never Really There. I highly recommend this book to anybody. It's a very well done book, and the movie that came from this has Joaquin Phoenix in it, and he does an exceptional job, just like Joaquin Phoenix always does an exceptional job. Whatever movie he's in, he's an amazing actor. He's one of my favorite actors. He's on a list of actors where I have, if he's in a movie, I'll probably watch that movie. The guy's just brilliant, and the movies he does are brilliant. In this particular story, it is a work of fiction. It's important to understand it's a work of fiction, but it's based on real events. And the real events that it's based on is this place called a playground, okay? And on this playground, like I said, it's a euphemistically called a playground. Children are brought there, and they are kept there to be forced to interact with adults that have perverse desires. Okay? I'm trying to keep it clean for YouTube because I don't want YouTube pulling this video or anything. So this is one of the things that we really have to look into in America, is because we have children coming to the border with families, and they're coming in illegally. So for some reason, they want these children to be undocumented. They don't want anybody knowing that these children are coming into America. And I mean, it's just really suspicious activity. We don't want, these people don't want anybody knowing that they're bringing children over the border. And it just seems that if nobody knows about these children, then the government, like I said before, if you're in America, we're going to treat you like a human. Okay, we're going to do everything we can to treat you like a human. But if we don't know that you're here, we can't do anything for you. If we don't know that somebody is doing something horrible to you, we can't protect you. And if you're an undocumented child coming into America, horrible things are going to happen to you. And one of the horrible things that could happen to you is this thing called a playground, where you're brought in there and you're forced to interact with perverse adults. This is not a good situation for a child, and it's not a good thing. We don't want these in America. But the only way that law enforcement can protect these children is if law enforcement is able to interact with government agencies like ICE. But in the state of Oregon, this isn't allowed. So are there these playgrounds in the state of Oregon? I don't know. I'm sure that there is some law enforcement officials out there who say, yes, there are, and we know exactly where they're at, and if we could communicate with law enforcement, if we could do the right thing, then yeah, we could go in there, we could romp on these people, we could free these children, and we could do what law enforcement is supposed to do. But their hands are tied. They can't do this because sanctuary state policies. In a place where powerful men commit unspeakable acts behind a veil of protection, enabled not only by criminal networks, but by the silent complicity of institutions. Though fictional, the story reflects a chilling truth that systemic exploitation can only exist when it is tolerated, ignored, or protected by those with authority to stop it. And you see this, the lack of tracking mechanisms for undocumented minors released to sponsors can create a logistical black hole. Children disappear into labor markets, private homes, or are trafficked, and no agency is allowed to follow up unless unrelated criminal activity brings them back into the system. And I didn't use the S word there because I don't know if YouTube is going to, pull the video if I do that. I might have to actually, cut this slider thing. But you see, this is what I'm talking about. If we don't have tracking mechanisms for undocumented minors, then we can't take care of them. And this is an important thing. And yes, ICE does want to get rid of these illegal aliens because a lot of these illegal aliens are bad people. They haven't been vetted, and this situation. So basically what I'm saying is that the federal government paints with a very wide brush, very wide swath. Sometimes mistakes are going to be made, but certain things have to happen in order to assure the safety of the people. And it's like I said, you can't be safe and honest at the same time. Well, we go for honesty. We go for truth, okay? We want to be as true as possible. So being safe, that's, sometimes in order to be safe, we have to do something else. But anyways, where am I going with this now? This vacuum creates what some have called a protection paradox. Children who are protected from deportation, but not from the predators who use the same protections as covered from exploitation. This is what I'm saying is, yeah, these children, okay, they could stay in America, they're protected from deportation, but who protects them from the bad people that brought them up here and wanted them to be undocumented in the first place? Okay, and I'm leading up to something here. Stick around, okay? The intersection of sanctuary policies and transnational drug trafficking is another area where well-intentioned laws may create unintentional blind spots. Drug trafficking networks thrive in environments where coordination among law enforcement agencies is limited, and sanctuary jurisdictions, by design, create legal barriers that disrupt the flow of information between local and federal entities. Okay, and this is where I'm saying criminals love sanctuary cities. We know that criminals love sanctuary cities. Why do we have sanctuary cities? Why do we continue to maintain sanctuary cities and sanctuary states when we know that it's just, it attracts all of the wrong elements. All of the criminals, all the predators, all of the bad people are coming to Oregon. We want people to come to Oregon for the right reasons. We want them to set up businesses. We want them to be engineers, architects, doctors, philosophers, lawyers, physicists, and like this. The wrong people are coming to Oregon. And that's the problem. The reason they're coming here is because this is a sanctuary city. And if we get too many of these bad people in Oregon, then the people that we want in Oregon are going to run away. And we don't want that. Major sanctuary cities such as San Francisco, Portland, that's us, Chicago have been identified in DEA intelligence as transshipment or distribution hubs for Mexican drug cartels. Like I said, getting a lot of the wrong people coming to Oregon. We don't want that. We want the good people. In order to get the good people here, we have to get rid of the bad people. Okay, so that's not where I'm going. I'm going with someplace else. Okay. In sanctuary jurisdictions, local police may arrest these individuals for drug-related offenses, but are prohibited from notifying ICE unless a judicial warrant is provided, something ICE rarely has in civil immigration enforcement cases, which means that these drug dealers, these bad people, these gangsters, they're let back out on the street. And I mean, Portland. A lot of people live in Portland. A lot of people interact in Portland. Your kids go to school in Portland. You're living in Portland. You got your little house here. Your kids leave the house. They go to school. They're walking around where drug dealers are at. And these drug dealers have interstate ties. They can go from Oregon to Iowa to Georgia to Florida or whatever without any problem. ICE and the federal government, the rest of these people are not really allowed to keep track of them because sanctuary policies. Why are these sanctuary policies in place if we know that they attract criminals and predators? Let's get to that, okay? As a result, traffickers often avoid federal scrutiny after initial arrest and may be released back into the community. Your children interacting with these dangerous people. By creating islands of non-cooperation with a broader law enforcement system, sanctuary policies can unintentionally allow drug traffickers to move freely, use cities as safe zones, and exploit legal loopholes that prioritize immigration status over public safety. And this is what I'm talking about. We have a very unsafe place due to these criminals moving in. And so we have to look at what's happening. We have to move in. We have to figure out a way to fix this situation. And we know what's wrong. The sanctuary city policies are bad. They're creating these zones where criminals can come and just thrive. So I appreciate the fact that America is a place where people come to live a better life and they want to live the American dream. But there's something wrong if Americans can't live the American dream because of the criminal element in their society. We want Americans to be able to live the American dream. If they can't do it because of government policies, then there's something wrong with the government policies. Okay? So, beyond the horrors of sexual exploitation and narcotics, the issue of slave labor and human trafficking reveals yet another consequence of sanctuary policies that restrict cooperation with federal authorities. And, like I said, I don't hate Democrats or anything like that, but during the Civil War, the Democrats were the ones that were enforcing slavery. And it seems that these policies that are being enforced by the Democrats are also, they're also enforcing the policies of slavery. The Democrats were responsible for the Jim Crow laws. The Democrats were responsible for the Trail of Tears, where all the Native Americans had to walk to Oklahoma. So it seems that the Democrats kind of like policies. They seem to like political policies that enforce these kinds of environments, allow these kinds of environments to happen. So it's kind of up to us, the Republicans, to sort of rein in the insanity and fix the situation. And this is what I intend to do. If I get to go to Washington, D.C. as a state representative of Oregon, this is something I am going to look into. I'll get as many federal authorities in as possible to look into this situation, because if the states are enforcing political policies that go against the constitutional objectives, and remember, allergies. The constitutional objectives are form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. If the state's policies go against these constitutional requirements, then the states have to be corrected. They have to have their behavior corrected. Okay, and that is part of the federal government's mandate, is to make sure that all of the states in the union act in accordance with constitutional protocol. Okay, so this whole slave labor thing, criminal enterprises that profit from the exploitation of undocumented labor depend on one critical condition, and that is invisibility. Invisibility, I mean, how many times have you seen people walking along the sidewalk, you're driving to work, they could be exploited, they could be under the control of some criminal element. They're invisible to you, you don't see them. Okay? These are people that the government has to protect, and in order to protect them, we have to know who they are. They have to have some kind of record. Okay? It's up to us to make sure that all of the people in America are safe, even the ones who are here illegally. Okay? Undocumented individuals are often forced into labor under threat of violence, debt, bondage, or fear of deportation. These victims are commonly found in industries such as agriculture, construction, hospitality, domestic services, and food processing. So the whole agriculture thing there, that is a bad place to work because of all the farming chemicals. Construction also, I mean, they're making decent money, but a lot of times, I don't know if you've seen the houses that are built lately, but they aren't built well. And if you put illegals into construction, just because you know that you could put 30 or 40 people on a job today, well, then your construction is going to suffer. And these houses that are built today, they're not going to last 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, houses that were built 100 years ago are still around because they were built well. Houses that are built now, not so much. So that's one of the problems there. Hospitality, and of course that's, the people. Domestic services and food processing. The food processing thing, I think I've gone over this before. With undocumented, unvetted workers, we really don't know if they have some kind of STD or tuberculosis, scarlet fever. smallpox, measles. They could come here from another country with tuberculosis, work in the food processing industry, and they could spread their tuberculosis to tens of thousands of people without even knowing it. I mean, it's not like these people come to America thinking, yeah, what am I going to do when I get in America? Oh, I'm going to spread tuberculosis. I'm going to make sure everybody. That's not what they said. They want to come to America for a better life because they know in their home country, things like treatments for tuberculosis are practically unheard of. I mean, a lot of the people who came to America during the Biden administration came to America from countries where 30 to 40% of the population have tuberculosis. And it's just overlooked. It's just something that people deal with. Oh, that person's got TB. They'll probably die before they're 40. In America, we've practically gotten rid of tuberculosis. And we get these food people from other countries who work in the food processing industry, and they happen to have tuberculosis, and through no fault of their own, they're not planning it or anything, they get tuberculosis into the food, and that goes into our systems, and we start contracting tuberculosis. This is a bad thing. We don't want that. They don't want that. So one of the benefits of having documentation, one of the benefits of vetting people properly is we can check them for diseases like tuberculosis and scarlet fever. Okay, so that's another problem with the whole sanctuary city policy. If we can't vet these people, if we can't investigate them, if we don't know who they are, we don't know if they're spreading tuberculosis, not just to us, but to everybody they interact with. Okay, let's say your uncle is an illegal alien, but you're going to let him stay in your house with you. Your uncle is going to interact with your children, and those children are going to interact with other children. And before you know it, you have a huge tuberculosis outbreak like the one that's happening in Kansas City right now. These things have to be controlled. This is America. We want people to come here and be healthy. We don't want them to come here and end up in a bad situation where this type of thing happens. So, like I said, in America, we have to take care of all of our people, even the undocumented illegal ones. In some cases, individuals are trafficked across state lines and subjected to conditions that meet the legal definition of slavery, which is no pay, no freedom of movement, and physical or psychological coercion. Now, I'm reminded of something that happened down in Humboldt County in California. Humboldt County is where they had all of the marijuana grows. Lots and lots of marijuana being grown illegally in Humboldt County, down Cal. Now, the illegal immigrants were brought in to harvest the product, but they were never paid. And if they ever complained about it, what's going to happen? I mean, are they going to go to law enforcement and say, hey, this happened? So this is slave labor. These people are brought to America to be slave labor. And what are they going to do? They're not going to starve to death. They're going to go out and rob people. They're going to steal food. They're going to do whatever it takes to survive. Okay, I mean, anybody would. Nobody is going, if you see, well, I could starve to death or I could steal that sandwich. You're going to steal the sandwich. I mean, come on. We're human. This is get real. But yeah, this is slave labor. We don't like slave labor in America, and this is one of the problems I have with these democratic policies. Like I say, democratic policies tend to favor the conditions that create slave labor. So, put a Republican in there. Put me, a Republican, in there, and you'll see the whole slave labor thing go away. I think I might have to clean this up a little bit. Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. Anyways. Oops, this one, that's what I meant to get. Okay, so sanctuary policies that limit the ability of local authorities to identify and communicate with federal partners about such individuals create a protection by omission. one that traffickers rely on. These traffickers are going to keep trafficking as long as these policies are in place. When a local sheriff is made aware that undocumented workers are being held in inhuman conditions, they may be prevented by state law from alerting ICE, even if they believe the individuals are victims of trafficking. This legal wall prevents timely rescue efforts and, in some cases, enables the continuation of the abuse. So if the sheriff cannot help these people, then these people are going to continue to be victimized by the bad guys. Okay, and this is not what American justice is about. We want to avoid the victimization of innocent people. We want to help the innocent people. If we have people in America who are being victimized by gangsters and thugs and criminals, we want to protect them. Get rid of the gangsters, get rid of the criminals, get rid of the thugs. But in order to do that, we have to get rid of the sanctuary policies. Okay, it's as simple as that, really. One of the most alarming yet often overlooked dimensions of the immigration enforcement debate is the potential for transnational criminal activity, including terrorism, to be financed through the very systems that sanctuary policies insulate from federal scrutiny. While sanctuary jurisdictions are not directly responsible for terrorist activity, the gaps they create in enforcement and intelligence coordination can be exploited by organizations that thrive on cross-border trafficking operations, especially when those operations involve human movement, narcotics, and cash flow. Terrorist organizations do not always rely on direct attacks to accomplish their objectives. Increasingly, they finance their operations through criminal enterprises, often piggybacking on existing smuggling infrastructure. And this includes drug trafficking, human smuggling networks, and document fraud rings. Okay? So in 2018, the Department of Justice unsealed indictments against the Hezbollah-linked cell operating in Michigan and New York. The two states with numerous sanctuary jurisdictions, the individuals involved were gathering intelligence on potential U.S. targets and facilitating drug trafficking to fund overseas operations. These are terrorists, actual terrorists. They are coming into the United States and they are using the United States. They're using our constitutional freedoms against us. They know that these sanctuary cities are going to allow them to do whatever they want to do, as long as what they're doing. I don't know. Just these people are doing bad things. The sanctuary city thing. I mean. Why is it there? If we know, if everybody in law enforcement knows that the sanctuary city policies, the sanctuary policies in general, state, city, local, whatever, if they are working against the law enforcement that helps us to maintain the power of our constitutional republic, if everybody knows that these sanctuary policies are bad, why are these sanctuary policies still in effect? And I'm getting to that. Whether by design, apathy, or corruption, public institutions can become enablers of the very crimes they claim to oppose. And that's what right there. They claim to oppose, okay? Now, in the book, You Were Never Really Here, Jonathan Ames introduces the concept of a playground, a hidden place where children are trafficked and abused under the protection of powerful men. The novel suggests that such operations could not exist without the tacit, not tactic, without the tacit approval or willful blindness of government officials. And this is where we're getting into the meat of it. this is where we're getting into what I wanted to talk about. What if our government officials are complacent in these criminal activities? What if the people in our government want these crimes to happen? What if our government is saying, well, you know, we could do things the right way, or we could just get a whole bunch of money from illegal activities, and then we could hire Beyonce for our next presidential election thing, and we could spend $2 billion on our presidential election, while the Republicans spend maybe a couple $100 million on theirs. See, that's what it's all about. Corrupt government officials. Allergies are killing me, man. These corrupt government officials want the corruption to continue because that's how they get their power. Okay, so corrupt government officials create a system where their corruption provides them with the power they need to keep the corruption going so that they can maintain power in the government. Okay? So that's where I'm going with this. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal, for example, revealed a vast network of sexual exploitation that operated for decades, shielded by wealth, influence, and apparent institutional protection. Institutional protection. That's the government. The government. The government that is enforcing these sanctuary policies is the government that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to continue doing what he was doing on his little Epstein Island with complete lack of oversight. No, I mean, there were people that knew what he was doing, but until it was brought up in front of America, big and bold, nobody really paid attention. And that's the same thing that's happening with these undocumented workers. These undocumented workers are coming to America with the best of intentions, and they are being exploited by the people who they think are their friends. These people say, don't trust the American government, don't trust American law enforcement, don't trust Americans, don't trust white people, only trust us. We will make sure you're okay. And then they're exploiting these people, sending them to slave labor, using them as mules. And all these bad things are happening to these people. We don't want bad things to happen to them. We want them to be protected, but we can't protect them if we don't know who they are. Okay, so it serves as a warning. Such exploitation does not require widespread corruption to exist, only a few powerful gatekeepers and a culture of silence. And this is something that I say, George Carlin, and this is one of the memes that I'm going to use on my campaign. Something that George Carlin warned us about a long time ago was stupid people in large numbers. He said, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers. Well, what I want to tell people is never underestimate the power of corrupt people strategically placed in the government. A few corrupt people strategically placed in the government can provide all of the power of the government to these corrupt officials. And if you or anybody else tries to fix the corruption, well, I mean, the government, they are the people who control the law enforcement. They're the people who control the military. They're the people who control the Secret Service and so forth. I mean, we are just beginning. Joe Biden, when he left office, he pardoned a whole bunch of people, gave blanket pardons to a whole bunch of people. Why does he need to pardon so many people? You know, I mean, they actually had the what is it, that the little signature machine signing these things for Joe Biden. And that's why they're saying, well, a lot of these things can't really be taken seriously. And these pardons we might be able to overturn them because they weren't signed by a competent president who understood the nature of the pardon. And that's one of the aspects of pardoning somebody. The president has to understand. The president has to have the faculty and the mental presence to understand the whole impact of this pardon. And if Joe Biden didn't really understand the pardon, or there's just a machine that was signing for him, it's entirely possible those pardons can be invalidated. But, anyways, yeah, so what I'm getting at is, okay, in states like Oregon, sheriffs are explicitly prohibited from cooperating with ICE in almost all circumstances unless a federal judicial warrant is presented. As a result, officers who uncover evidence of trafficking or abuse involving undocumented individuals may be legally barred from notifying the very agencies tasked with combating such crimes. Now, this creates a system where lawful intervention is delayed, restricted, or even criminalized, and where silence is not just encouraged, but required. What the sheriff was telling us last night is it is actually against the law for the sheriff to do what the sheriff knows needs to be done. And we can't have law and order if the people who are in charge of enforcing the law can't enforce the law. So these sanctuary policies have to stop. And we'll keep going here, okay? Did I go over this? Yeah, the convergence of sanctuary laws prohibiting local federal cooperation, institutional loyalty to ideology over safety. Ideology over safety. The idea of sanctuary city over safety, okay? And this is where you can't choose two masters. You cannot have a sanctuary city and have a safe city, okay? It's one or the other. I would prefer a safe city over a sanctuary city. Lack of oversight in migrant placement at shelters, silence or retaliation against whistleblowers creates a perfect storm for predators, traffickers, and criminal networks. Exploitation, once discovered, is often too advanced, too dispersed, or too protected to stop swiftly. So by limiting communication and cooperation with federal agencies like ICE and Homeland Security, investigations, sanctuary jurisdictions may inadvertently provide cover for child exploitation rings, drug trafficking operations, forced labor networks, and financial channels used to support terrorism. And that's not good. We don't want that. We really don't want that. Why do the political authorities enforce these sanctuary policies unless the political authorities benefit from these sanctuary policies? What are they doing? So I mean, let's look at all these Democrats in Congress who have become millionaires, even billionaires. I mean, they're making $170,000 a year. How can they become millionaires, billionaires, unless they're doing something that encourages or allows these corrupt environments to happen? See, with communication, accountability, if the government is working the way the government is supposed to work, if all the government organizations, federal, state, if they communicate with each other, if they work together, then the bad things that happen aren't going to happen because everything's going to be coordinated properly and people are going to be protected. The people who need to be protected are going to be protected. The people who need to be deported are going to be deported. But you have these policies where Joe Biden and the previous administration let in all these people So now we have to go through the vetting process. We have to go through all these processes to get rid of these people. And it's a very big, very daunting process, and it requires communication between federal and state authorities. But where that communication is denied, the process can't happen. And where the process can't happen, we have dangerous situations. Well, why would any politician, why would any reasonable person in a state, in a position of authority in government want this to happen unless that state official, that government official, was profiting somehow from this bad situation? And that's what I believe is going on. Immigration is an emotionally charged and politically divisive issue, but public safety and the protection of children should transcend party lines. The cost of silence is too high. We need to re-examine the assumptions behind sanctuary policies, ensure they do not obstruct justice, and have the courage to call out complicity wherever it exists, whether in cartels, corporations, or government offices, especially government offices. And you see, this is, for too long, we have had the Republicans and Democrats at each other's throats. And this is why I keep saying I don't hate Democrats. I'm not against the Democrats. Some of the Democrat policies are brilliant. They're wonderful, okay? One of the policies with the Republicans is fiscal responsibility, okay? Now, the opposite of fiscal responsibility is not fiscal irresponsibility, okay? Fiscal responsibility just means cheap, okay? We don't want to pay for it, okay? If you ask, what is it? Back in the 1960s, the Democrats, JFK, started the space program, and we got to the moon. If Republicans were in charge of that, the Republicans might just say, why do you want to go to the moon? I mean, the moon's right there. Well, we want to get close to the moon. Well, just get a telescope. Okay, you can buy a telescope for like $25 and you can look at the moon really close, okay? You don't have to go to the moon. The Democrats and it's called strategic spending, okay? The opposite of fiscal responsibility is not fiscal irresponsibility, it's strategic spending. Republicans, fiscal responsibility. Democrats, strategic spending. And if you look at the things that the Democrats have done strategic spending on, I mean, Panama Canal, going to the moon, Erie Canal, Golden Gate Bridge, these things, they're terrific. They're wonderful things. I have no problem with the Democrats doing their strategic spending, wanting to spend money. But the problem I have is that to be a Democrat, for some reason, to be a Democrat is to be anti-Republican. To be a Republican is to be anti-Democrat. I don't see it that way. The Republicans and Democrats, think of it this way. We have an arch, okay? Here's an arch. The strength of the arch comes from each side being equal. Okay, we have these two sides of the arch pushing together on what's called the keystone, okay? And the keystone is what's holding up everything. The two arches come together and the keystone, and it holds up everything up here, okay? A bridge, a tunnel, whatever. Well, the Republicans and the Democrats, we work together to hold up our democratic republic, our constitutional republic. Okay, that's us working together. So that's why I say I don't hate Democrats. I don't suspect Democrats. I suspect that some of the policies that the Democrats have created have gotten away from the Democrats. And one of the problems with these policies is that if you create a policy and that policy leads to bad things happening, you don't want to get rid of the policy because that's a way of admitting that you were wrong, and nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. So you just try to fix the policy. Well, these policies of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, they're going badly. But the Democrats don't want to destroy these policies because that's admitting that they're wrong. And plus, if we investigate these policies and really look at the depth of the corruption, the Democrats are going to look very bad. And I don't want the Democrats. What I want is for the system itself, the whole narrative, the whole idea to be re-examined. All right, I'm sure there was plenty of corruption when it came to the space program. I'm sure there was lots of corruption when it came to the Panama Canal, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Erie Canal, all these, the Cross-Continental Railroad and so forth. There's going to be, where there is money, there's corruption. You want to see corruption? Follow the money. That's what anybody in law enforcement will say. You want to see corruption? Just follow the money. Wherever you got lots of money, you got lots of corruption, okay? These Democratic policies are not terrible policies. There are terrible people who take advantage of these policies. So it's possible for us to keep the policies, but fix what's wrong with them. Okay, so I want Democrats and Republicans to work together to fix the policies that the Democrats have created. That's the goal here, okay? And that's because it's not a partisan demand, it's a moral one. This is not about Republican or Democrat. This is about America. It is about the foundation of our constitutional republic. We need to be a unified force. The Republicans cannot govern alone. We need the Democrats there with us. We need the checks and balances that go on in the House of Representatives and throughout government, House of Representatives, Congress, Senate, and all that. We need them to help us out. They need us to help them out. We need to work together. So I want to get rid of these sanctuary city policies altogether, but I want to keep certain aspects of them. Like, I want to keep the aspects where these illegal aliens, if they're victimized by criminals, I want them to be able to go to law enforcement and report these crimes because I want them to be safe. I want them to be able to go to hospitals and get checked for tuberculosis. I want them to enjoy the benefits of being an American, even if they aren't Americans, because you are in America. And Americans, we uphold the principles of the Constitution of the United States. We uphold the principles of our Declaration of Independence. Our Declaration of Independence stated that all people are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All people, not Americans, all people. All of the children of God are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if our own political ideologies, if our own political institutions or government institutions are working against those principles, then we have to re-examine the policies that have created these problems. And that's all that I really want. I don't want to destroy the Democrats. I don't want them to go away. I like the idea of the Democrats and the Republicans working together. That's the way it's supposed to be. But these policies have to be gotten rid of. They have to be re-examined, gotten rid of. Any criminal activities have to be brought up to whomever can fix them. And we have to take care of the people who need to be taken care of. Okay, so now this is something I want to leave you with is this information here for the ICE tip hotline, okay? And the reason for this is, like I said, the sheriff's hands are tied. The sheriff cannot go and call ICE and tell ICE, hey, this is happening. Because if that happens, then the sheriff loses the sheriff's job. And we don't want the sheriff to lose the sheriff's job. We like the sheriff. We want more people like the sheriff in Oregon. Okay? You, as a private citizen, you can contact ICE. If you think that something is happening in your neighborhood that has something to do with illegal immigration, if you think maybe there's a playground where children are being abducted and used, if you think there's a terrorist cell that's getting money from selling drugs, if you think anything is happening this is ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Okay, so customs is just basically making sure that whatever shouldn't be in America is not in America. These are the physical things. We don't want Iranian nuclear bombs in America, in like St. Louis, okay? We don't want cocaine in America. We don't want, these drugs. That's the customs people. The immigration is the people who deal with humans, okay? So humans and physical things that we don't want in America, the immigration and customs enforcement people, that's what they enforce. So this is the phone number for them. If you have anything that you think needs to be communicated with ICE, just go ahead and use this phone number, okay? And you're not going to be, it's not like you're some kind of horrible snitch or anything like that. You're doing people a favor. You're helping people who need help, okay? You are doing what our sanctuary cities and sanctuary state policies prohibit law enforcement from doing. Okay, so go ahead, give ICE a call if you have any kind of, if you're being exploited, give ICE a call. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have. Sorry for taking so long, about an hour and 15 minutes. But we'll catch you next week, okay? Thank you very much. My name is Tom Timbrooks. Once again, I am a Republican. I am running for the House of Representatives of Washington, D.C., Oregon's District 6. So please vote for me. It's 2025. The election isn't until 2026. I might not even be alive then, but I wanted to get an early start. So thank you very much for listening. Take care.